So, if you're anything like me, occasionally you might have a day where you think to yourself, why did I bother to do the thing? This particular prompt was just such an occasion. Why did I bother with this? Why did I try? Why did I do all of the steps that I did? And I'm just going to come out and say it. I shouldn't have done the things I did, but I did them anyway. And now I've learnt never to do them again. So I really wanted to use this specific stencil. I've had it for about a month and I've been really eager to try it. And this particular prompt was Glitteratti, I do believe. And I had no idea what to do. None whatsoever. But I knew I wanted to use the stencil, so I used the stencil. And I used Jane Davenport's Pearl of Wisdom acrylic paint. Just a nice pearlescent paint, but it didn't pop the way I wanted it to. There was no oomph to it. So I went over the top with silver glitzy marker. And that also did not help. So I'm sitting there thinking to myself, why am I doing the thing that I want to do? And it wasn't until I realised, well, maybe you should have planned this one, that I thought, wow, that explains why it's terrible. I mean, it's not terrible. It's a stencil. I'm the one that's not used the stencil correctly. But in saying that, I made some mistakes. Well, oopsies, accidents. I did techniques that I knew were not good, not skilled. Something to that effect. What I should have remembered was that because the background is watercolour for this specific one, it's pink watercolour and gold watercolour mixed together on the paper. I should have realised that when I put the pearlescent acrylic on the top of the watercolour, it would mix in a little bit and dilute or dull the pearlescent paint a little bit. And then by going over the top of the acrylic with the silver marker, I've just completely ignored the fact that there's gold in the background. And silver and gold do work together. And when it comes to pink and gold, they're kind of like my comfort colours. I mean, everybody has their favourite kind of colours or their favourite colour combination. And for me, that's pink and gold. Well, one of them anyway. One of my favourite combinations. But then by going over the acrylic with the silver and completely ignoring that there's gold in the background, I'm just not providing a good composition for the piece. And here I am trying to go over with a gel pen. Silly me, that did not work. Mostly because it's glitzy marker. And the glitzy marker was dry, but it's not like an acrylic paint. It's not something you can actually go over the top of with a gel pen. And my gel pen is fine, but it is a good way to ruin a gel pen by going over the glitzy marker. You can see me trying to wipe the ink off of the gel pen, and I gave up and tried to use my Jane Davenport paint over pen. That also did not work. And at this point, I'm sitting here going, what is wrong with me? Why am I so frustrated? Why am I sitting here thinking to myself, what are you doing? What is the point? And I'm getting frustrated at that point. I'm just sitting here going, oh, I am tired. It's hot. Because it's Christmas time in summer and in Australia, and it's summer for us. So I'm like, you know what? Go back, think about it. And I did, and I thought about it. And I decided I was going to go over the top with gesso so that I could then go over the top of it again. after this piece was finished, I still think it's not finished. I'm like, to be honest, it's not what I would consider complete, but I couldn't keep working on it. It was frustrating me. And Jane always says she wants her work not to frustrate her. And this particular piece took me, nearly an hour, if not longer. And all I was doing was basically just going over my original lines from the stencil. That was it. That's all I was doing, was just going over the top. And yeah, it didn't pop the way that I wanted to. I wanted va-va-voom. I wanted glitzy and sparkly, and I wanted glitteratti, but I didn't know how to make that happen on the page. And, these things do happen. You're going to have what some people call a bad art day. You're going to have times where you think to yourself, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Or maybe today just wasn't a day that I should have sat down and done some art. And that's perfectly valid feelings. There are just days where you can't get around to it, or days where you're just, mentally not up for it. And I honestly was really eager to sit down and do some art, and this just disappointed me. And I have nobody else to blame but myself. And it's not like there's rules to art either. I mean, there's guidelines, really. Certain things like, you should always wait for certain layers to dry before you go over the top with a certain kind of material, or, you'll break your pen. Those are guidelines. They're not rules, they're just guidelines. If you don't want to ruin your gel pens, make sure the paint's dry first. Those sorts of things. But there's no specific rule to art. Your art must contain these 3 colours, or it must have this certain triad of, the stars must align in this direction in order for your piece to be considered art. Like, it's just not that complicated. And there are no limitations, really. You can do whatever you want. And that's what I really like about art, is you just get to sit down and do whatever the hell you want. But with this, I really probably should have followed a few more guidelines. Oh, dear. And here I am trying to go over the currently dry gesso from memory. Completely dry, I think. And with the gold glitzy marker. And then as I was going over it, I'm thinking to myself, this isn't popping either. Why is this not coming together the way that I want it to? Why do I look at this and hate it? The stencil itself is beautiful, and I'm glad that I've used it. And I plan to use it again. Like, I really love the look. But it was not working. Nothing was working. So I picked up the Jane... Okay, so some of the gesso wasn't quite dry. I mean, it was dry-ish. Again, make sure your paint's dry before you go over the top with a marker or something. It's the quickest way to ruin a pen. Oh, but yeah, it wasn't giving me that shine that I wanted. So I picked up the Gold Bullion Squid Ink re-inker. And it's currently the only re-inker in the Squid Ink line from Jane Davenport. Hopefully we get proper re-inkers, but don't hold your breath. The Squid Ink had that va-va-voom to it that I was hoping for. And I do prefer it with this sort of really dark, rusty gold. And it is just beautiful. When you put it in the sun, it glints and glimmers in a way that just speaks to my inner magpie. Oh, it's so shiny. I'm like that crab from Moana. So shiny. Oh, it's beautiful. And just looking at it, like, it was it was like my saving grace. What I hoped would be my saving grace anyway. It didn't turn out to be like that. I still hate the piece. Well, I don't hate it. It doesn't feel finished to me. But at that point, I just couldn't keep working on it. I had to stop. I had to put all my materials away, let it dry, and walk away. Just walk away from it, Christy. Walk away. So I did. And I mean, it's been a few days, and it's just looking at it, not a few days. A day. Today. Yeah, today. Getting ahead of myself. Oh dear. Just looking at it, I still don't know what to do with it. And it could take me another day before I figure out what I want to do with it. Or it could take me 6 months to figure out what to do with it. There is no timeline on it, really. I could do whatever I like. And the materials themselves all worked. It's just, for some reason, it didn't work the way I wanted it to, which is not a fault of the materials at all, by the way. The materials did their job. They did what they were designed to do. Go over the top of certain things, have a certain colour, glide a certain way. They did what they were supposed to do. But for me, it wasn't working, and I wasn't sure if it was because of the way that I was doing it or because it just... Maybe I was having a bad art day. Maybe I couldn't figure out what to do. And I mean, I talked to my mum about it, and she has really good advice when it comes to this sort of thing. And, she says to me, maybe you should make the eyes, more defined. What else could you do? And I have no idea. But, letting it sit there for a little while is going to give me that little bit of space that I needed. And I don't see it as a bad thing. I see it as a learning experience. And every single prompt this month has been a learning experience. And we're only 6 days in, and I've already figured out more about Jane's suppliers than I had before. And that means everything to me. So while I'm not happy with this specific piece, I am glad that I learnt something. That I reminded myself of the reactive powers of watercolour, and that squid ink, when you apply it with a brush, can take significant amounts of time to dry, especially if it's sort of clumped. But yeah, it's just learning. You're just playing and finding new things that do and don't work. Oh well. We'll see if it's finished by the end of the month. Alright. Thank you so much for watching. I hope tomorrow is a much better video. We'll see. Okay then. Bye.